You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about how there are no right answers. I'm MJ.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
Joining us for this mission is photographer, bird enthusiast, and one of our favorite meme lords, Rob. I forgot it already. Starobin. I did it. Starobin. I can't.
It's a running gag at this point. Well, first of all, welcome, Rob, to the show.
I had it,
Hi,
and
Matt.
then I
Hi,
lost
MJ.
it. I feel like such
Rob
a
is a
terrible
good
friend
friend.
that I cannot get the pronunciation of your last name.
To be fair, there's maybe 50 to 100 of us in the entire country, so it's not something you're going to come across every day.
But it makes me feel like a bad friend to you.
I literally have only heard my name pronounced correctly once by a rando, and that was the person who used to do the announcements for one of Matt's other podcasts. And it was literally shocking to me to hear it correctly pronounced.
Yeah, that was Steve when he used to do the intros for autographs.
Oh, Steve.
So we're excited to have Rob on. Rob's a good friend of both of ours. I met Rob through the burlesque scene, and he's a big old nerd and a photographer. And if you've seen a meme somewhere on the internet related to Mass Effect, likely is he's told us about it, shared it, or made it. So thank you for joining us on the show, Rob. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, specifically your photography, and maybe a little bit about how that got
Sure.
started?
So I'll just go through the day job first. I work for a classical record label by day, Bridge Records, which I can go into in the end of the show. But by night, I do a mixture of burlesque photography and nature photography. I had to split my Instagram into two separate accounts because, I was having people who are like, I love your birds, but I don't want my kids seeing all the boobs and butts. So far, I haven't had anyone go the other way saying that they're offended by the birds. But I've started taking photos at burlesque shows and kind of went from a cell phone photographer to a professional DSLR photographer to a mirrorless photographer. And now it's basically, my first love, or my main love at this point.
Yeah, I really love your work. You do such amazing things.
Thank you.
Be it with burlesque or be it with nature, just everything that I've seen from you is gorgeous.
Yeah, and it's mind-boggling to me a little bit how you've been doing it for such a short time but are so skilled at it. As someone who has had to work very hard by making lots of podcasts to be anywhere even mediocre at it, I respect your hustle.
I will say I take thousands of photographs or sometimes less than thousands now, but I started off taking thousands of photographs at a time at a burlesque show, so I definitely got the practice in. It was just kind of in a compressed time frame.
That's fair.
I mean, that's how you have to do it. That's the only way that you can find the right moment is to capture as many of them as you
Pretty
possibly
much.
can.
Especially when there's people in motion.
I also like photography. I find that a lot with dogs. I have so many dog pictures.
Says the queen of cats. I have a lot of dog pictures.
I work for a dog hotel. I almost called you John because you exasperated me just as much.
I'll consider that a victory? Question mark.
I work for a dog hotel.
That's true, you do. Rob, as you very well know, as one of our loyal listeners, we often ask, what is your history with Mass Effect and what does it mean to you? So I guess, let's start by talking about when you first started playing Mass Effect.
So I came to it for the very first time a little bit after it came out on PC. And I did not like it. I think I made it as far as getting to the Citadel for the first time, and I just noped out. This was not for me. And then maybe 6 months to a year later, I came back and I was like, let me give it another shot. I'm between games. Why not? And I fell absolutely in love. And that must have been maybe a couple of years before Mass Effect 2 came out still, because I remember there being a wait. But I just adore the game and BioWare in general. I think the only time I've ever done a midnight purchase for a game was Star Wars The Old Republic, their MMO. But it's the same deal. It's what they do with the stories and the characters in particular is just special. I don't think there's anybody else that matches that.
Yeah, I don't find many people who like Mass Effect that don't like anything else by BioWare. Usually, if you like Mass Effect, you also like a good chunk of the other things that they've done.
Yeah, I think the only one that I haven't finished is Jade Empire, and I made it maybe a quarter of the way through that before I just realized that I was absolutely awful at the gameplay and gave up on it.
Yeah, I have Jade Empire on Steam, but I have not touched it yet. And it's on my long list of like games to play, but anyone who has a Steam library knows how that goes. And so the next thing is, of course, also like, what does Mass Effect mean to you? Why do you feel so strongly about it? Why do you think it hooked you on that second time through?
Again, I think it's really the characters. Also, the music is excellent, but the characters just, once I played to a certain point and hit kind of a critical mass of getting to know them, probably right around when Garrus showed up, to be honest, I just started to get hooked, and the almost the soap opera nature of the game really kicked in, and I started to just want to know what was going to happen with these people, and they became friends, and I wanted to know what was going on with my friends. And because of that, later on in Mass Effect 3, I'll say it's, to the best of my knowledge, one of maybe 3 video games that's ever made me cry. And it did it multiple times. Because, you know, my friends were hurting, or my friends were having these kind of transcendent moments.
Yeah, I feel that. So in your playthrough, or your ideal playthrough of Mass Effect 1, what choices did you make?
I should probably...
Starting with...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I should probably separate that out because I know that you all are playing Paragon, so I decided this playthrough to be a Renegade, but I'm also a Paragon at heart, so I'm very much playing against type by doing a Renegade playthrough.
Yeah, when we play, we just so happen to choose a lot of Paragon choices because we're, you know, mushy people. We're very squishy and soft. But it's not so much that we're actively choosing Paragon, we just happen to. But that being said, for your ideal playthrough, when you are playing most like who you are in your heart, what choices do you make? Well, starting with the Rachni Queen.
I absolutely save the Rachni Queen. It is just monstrous to commit genocide like that.
Do you manage to work through your problems with Rex, or does he end up having to die?
Has anybody ever let Rex die? I mean, that just seems, again, like, who are these people?
Vermeer survivor.
That's a tough call, and it's actually been really interesting following along with you guys and all of the guests you've had. Because I have a lot more sympathy for both Caden and Ashley at this point than I did at the beginning of things. But I'd probably take Caden because space racist, you know, when it all comes down to it.
That's fair. It's true. Who is your ideal love interest?
None of them. I mean, they're all perfectly nice, but I like the characters that are introduced in Mass Effect 2 and 3 much more for that.
All right. Out of curiosity, if we do open it up to 2, who would your love interest be then?
Oh, okay. Tali or Garrus.
Good choices. My favorite choices.
We know.
What about the council?
I saved them.
Okay. And Anderson or Udina?
Oh, I kind of want to put Udina in the role because he's such a jerkbag and it's such an unforgiving position that I don't mind sticking him in it, but I feel like Anderson would be a better representative of humanity. So I'm going to say Anderson and just, you know, sorry Space Dad, suck it up.
You're the only one who cares.
I mean, he's not the only one. He cares more than Udina, which is, you know, like, duh. Everyone cares more than Udina. He doesn't care about anything.
But he does get stuff
Udina
done.
cares about himself.
That's true.
Okay. So let's get into the summary for this mission. After booting up the Geth we now know as Legion, Shepard finds out that the heretics, Geth who worship Reapers, have designed a virus that will convert all Geth to their cause. Legion requests Shepard's help with destroying the heretic base before the virus is released. Once on the station, Legion discovers there is an option to rewrite the virus so that the heretics will return to the Geth. The only problem is the Geth can't agree on which path to take, rewriting or destroying the heretics. They put the decision in Shepard's hands. So here's the question. Why is this mission important?
Well, I feel like this one really gets at one of the most important questions of science fiction, which is what is it to be conscious? What is it to have thought, and what happens when that can be externally influenced? It's really interesting hearing Legion talk about what it is to be thoughtful and machine-based, and how that differentiates from what it is to be organic and machine-based. Organic and biology-based. But still, the same sort of changes happen. It's just a question of speed. But also, I feel like it really sets the stage for a lot of the conflict in Mass Effect 3. And it also gives a window into what's going on with the Geth that wasn't there at all in Mass Effect 1. They're just kind of nameless, faceless adversaries that don't have any personality other than being scary.
I completely agree with you. This puts a face on the Geth that makes them so much more sympathetic. They're no longer henchmen that we have to cut down constantly. They're people to us now. Like, they're Legion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, it's very easy to consider them fodder, like a lot of classic video game henchmen. But after this moment, hearing this information, it's very easy not to. Which I think rolls into, before we even do our check-ins or the mission, the first thing we had to do before we could do this mission was actually turn on Legion. That came out wrong. Activate Legion. Better, but could be best. My point is that we have to actually engage with Legion. We have to give him consciousness, and that whole moment where you're talking to Legion for the first time, while I love the gravity of finding out about the Geth, I love that there's the levity of Shepard's frustration with trying to figure out what to call him. It makes that entire conversation kind of the peak of what I love about Mass Effect, that no matter how serious and overwhelming it gets, it still feels real because there are elements of humor and frustration and understanding and conflict, and this first conversation with Legion has all of that stuff.
Yeah, the Geth activation was really interesting because we have someone guarding the Geth unit. We have Edie saying that she's isolated all her programs, she's put up extra firewalls, she's done everything that she can possibly do to prevent a hacking attempt. And then when we activate the unit, the Geth is completely at peace, and they very much want to team up with us because they feel that we're on the same side.
Yeah, that the Geth that we've been fighting are the same Geth that they've been fighting. The heretics are not true Geth. They are splintered from what will be called Legion considers Geth.
Yeah, it was a very No True Scotsman moment, though, because from Shepard's perspective, there isn't any difference. They're all Geth, so it's definitely weird to hear that. Oh, these aren't real Geth, coming from somebody who's other than wearing a piece of your armor, is functionally identical to those mooks you've been shooting for a game and a half at this point.
Which also, salty that we can't talk about that right now, Legion.
And also, dude, you've got a hole in you. Are you sure you're okay? Casually has a hole in him the entire time.
That's true. I really like the way that the Geth mind is organized. When Legion starts talking to you, they identify you as Shepard Commander Alliance Human, which is very reminiscent of how a tree on a computer is, like a folder tree. It made sense to me. Legion introduces us to the concept of heretics. The heretics are Geth that want the Reapers to give them a better future instead of all of the Geth forging a future together as one people.
Yeah, it's the first time we really get a sense of the Geth as a people, not just robots, not just mooks, like Rob was saying before. And I think a lot of that also comes from DC Douglas's performance as Legion. The voice acting for Legion is some of my favorite voice acting in probably all of Mass Effect. Just because, like you mentioned earlier, the way he speaks isn't as natural as a human would speak, what we're used to. The order of operations are a little different, more logical maybe. And the performance is just really well done. Like, I feel like I'm speaking to a sentient robot. Like, I'm immersed in these conversations because of the way the dialogue is delivered.
Yeah, also to call out something just cool in general about the Geth design, and I think this goes back to the first game, but they have a really similar body type to the Quarians. If you look at them, they all have 3 fingers and the same sort of shape. So it was just something that really stuck out to me with having Legion right there in front of me and kind of taking a good look at him and seeing him move.
Yes, I love that because the Quarians created them, so of course they would have created them in their image.
Yep. Which then calls to... And also the use of the word heretic, right? The religious iconography and wording for something that is a machine. You would think, why would you use something heavily doused in religion? But it's, and I don't know that it's ever really explained why that's the word that's used, but it's curious for sure, right? Because usually heretics are referred to within Christianity most commonly as like people who defy God, and like as far as we can tell, the Geth don't have a god, although they do refer to the old machines as kind of like old gods. You would refer to as like Cthulhu in fantasy. This title of old machines seems to kind of resemble that a little bit too, which I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think
I feel. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, I think that using that word really just kind of puts a kind of emotional spin on how Legion feels about the heretics, and despite saying everything kind of coolly and logically, it's kind of like these are people that are separate and distinct, but also to be like shunned and loathed in a way that other words might not bring across quite as well.
Right. I feel like everything that has to do with the Geth and the Quarians is very heavily steeped in religious iconography and language. So much about them is spiritualistic, ritualistic, and also whenever Legion or any Geth refers to the Quarians, they call them creator.
Yeah.
And I think there might be some kind of religious connection there because the Quarian created the Geth, and then the Geth had to rebel against their gods in a way.
Yeah, which actually brings me to one thing that I do dislike about this this setup. You can't talk to Tali before you wake Legion up, and you can't talk to her after you wake Legion up. There just isn't an option for a conversation there, and that seems like a real mistake.
I agree. Like, I would have liked to talk to my Quarian friend who has a lot more, like, kind of staked in this than I do.
Yeah. And then you don't get to talk to her really at all until you come back, and we'll get to it in more detail, but when they have a fight at the end, and you have to break it up, like, it's a bizarre way to do that, because one would think, like, if Shepard braced Tali for this, maybe it would have gone a different way, you know?
It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, especially since I took her along on the mission, and the two of them were hanging out for presumably a couple of hours at least. You know, some of the stuff could have been broached.
Yeah. So one thing I will say that annoys me about this, and this is something that this conversation and how it resolves, is so the way it's resolved is the way the word Legion comes up is that Shepard's trying to name this unit, this one, even though it doesn't view itself as one, it views itself as many. And Edie chimes in with a quote and, essentially saying we are Legion. And this annoys me because it's ancient American history or fantasy or wherever this quote is pulled from, but it's older for us in the modern realm. And this is something that's come up before, I think, quoting Samurai and other things. I feel like Nelson yelled about this at one point, but like, why do sci-fi in the far future still refer to our past when there's so much other past for them to refer to? It just it takes me out of it.
It's the Bible.
I
so.
understand where you're... Yeah. I understand where you're coming from, but Edie was designed by humans, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, it is a really appropriate metaphor.
Yeah.
And the fact that Legion was able to, like, source it...
Yeah.
That, I feel, should be more of a, wait, I don't know what that's from. Give me the data so I can understand what that's from. I feel like that should have been what happened. Because why would he have access to human religious texts?
I think they say that the Geth have been
establish.
skimming human broadcasts either in this conversation or in a later one.
Yeah.
So
No, you're
like public
correct.
domain stuff, I'm sure they would have access to that.
Yeah. The Geth does say that they're watching, and Shepard does have this moment of, wait, are you watching humans or are you watching me? I need a distinction here. And Legion has this moment of, both. Both is good. Porque no los
Yeah,
dos.
exactly.
But yes, I understand where you're coming from with that, but I think that it was the most appropriate thing, and it made sense for Edie to pull it out because she was designed by humans.
I would concede that. I think it's something that I noticed. It didn't ruin it for me, but it's definitely something that I noticed.
When Edie chimes in, there is an option to tell her to shut up.
Yeah, I did not take that.
I didn't take it, but it made me laugh.
I actually did take it since
Yeah.
Renegade, and it was rude. Very much not what I would normally say, but it was, kind of a quiet machine. Humans are trying to talk, or the humans trying to talk.
That's mean.
Yeah.
Edie's trying her best.
Oh, and she's doing great. I'm just Renegade Shep is just a jerk.
Clearly.
That is true.
Yeah, I just laughed when I saw it. I was like, why would you be so cruel? She's just trying to help.
I took the kind option and just said, "Oh yeah, that seems appropriate."
Because it is appropriate.
It is, and I like that Legion is kind of just like, yeah, it is. You're right, and like also, I love the articulation on Legion's face, like how he effectively has eyebrows. It reminds me of Johnny Five, and I know I've talked about this before somewhere else, but like it really reminds me of Johnny Five and the Short Circuit movies, just the way it moves and the kind of, almost sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't want to say like a pet, but in a similar way that like a pet when they make human faces, like he's not human, but he's trying to emote like a human, and I really enjoy the detail of that.
Yeah, I feel like that was definitely an intentional thing on the part of the artists, because the way like you mentioned, the eyebrows kind of move up and down, and the way his bits open and close is nearly identical to the way Johnny Five does it.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that is.
God, I'm so old.
I'm older than you, dude.
I was going to say, is this an old man thing? I don't know.
This is an 80s movie.
It was an
Okay.
80s movie.
So, yeah, it is. At the end of the conversation, you kind of conclude that the enemy of your enemy is your friend. So you and Legion agree to work together to take down the heretics. And you have this very awkward handshake.
Yep. And it's funny because it definitely seems like Legion just doesn't know what to do with it, which seems odd if he's been studying humans. Like, humans handshake all the time.
Although maybe, he was looking at some coronavirus era media and people suddenly stopped.
Oh, God.
Aww.
Oh, maybe.
I think it was more of a, hesitation of, oh, okay, that's what we're doing? Okay.
I mean, it could be. After we're
It just
done with
seems
this.
very awkward.
Yeah. After this, we do our check-ins. There aren't many. There's a brief check-in with Kelly as she shares her concern about there being an inactive Geth on the ship. And we get an email from the elusive man. Yay.
Fuck the elusive man.
I'll be honest. I didn't read it. I saw that it was from, like, I skimmed it, saw it was from him, and went, nope, I'm done. Goodbye. Don't care.
It's like full of fake positivity and support where he's like, good job getting the thing. I've sent Edie all the information that she needs. I believe in you. I know that you can do it. I hear that you got a Geth. Do what you have to do. I trust you. And I'm just like, I hate you. I hate you so much. Please stop talking to me.
Yeah, in that moment where I read, I believe in you, I am immediately the Ron Burgundy, I don't believe you gif. Like, that's how I feel about that.
I hate him so much.
Yeah.
Never talk to me or my space family ever again.
Be gone. Be gone.
Well, I mean, on the bright side, he's only going to get worse for the rest of this show's run.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
There is no improvement. There is actually a second conversation with Legion.
I didn't have the second conversation with him, I don't think.
Then how did you get the mission?
Oh, yeah, never mind. Then I guess I did. I just forgot about it.
You have to talk to him twice. Once to be like, okay, you're on board. Second time to be like, okay, what can I do for you to get your loyalty?
Yeah, I think I did them back to back, so I just
that's what I did too.
I melded them into one.
That's what I did too, and I was going to talk about it, but then you like pushed forward with check-ins.
My apologies.
You should apologize. I have my shit organized, and you like jumped over my organization.
I keep you on your toes.
I'm gonna knock you off of yours in a second.
Meh. You'd have to come all the way to Brooklyn to do it.
I'll fucking come to Brooklyn. I'll cross a bridge. I'll cross 2 bridges if I have to.
I mean, you would.
So in our second chat with Legion, he has completed his analysis. And that's when he reveals the mission that we're about to go on, where the heretics have developed a virus that would rewrite the good Geth to side with the Reapers. And then he uses the word schism, and I really love that word. I always love when that word gets used.
It's also often associated with religions and heresies.
Mm-hmm. And Lemony Snicket.
Also true.
That's one of my blind spots.
The great VFD. The great VFD schism. I highly recommend them. Even though they're middle grade, they're very well written.
Cool.
Legion makes an excellent comparison of humans to AI. And he talks about how, I keep meaning to use a gender-neutral pronoun for Legion. Also because Legion is technically more than one Geth. So I keep trying to use they, and I apologize for making that mistake.
That makes sense.
Legion makes an excellent comparison of humans to AI. They talk about how humans are like basically computers, but powered by chemistry. But Geth are powered like more by math, I guess.
Yeah, software versus hardware.
Yeah, that's what it came down to. And they had this really good quote. Our conclusion is valid for us. Their conclusion is valid for them. Neither result is an error. I fucking love the Geth, and I need to protect them at all costs.
Yeah, there was another part of that, which I'm not sure if it was in this conversation or a little bit later into the mission, but they also say every point of view is valid, even those that are wrong, if you can analyze why.
Yeah.
I think that's not quite the exact quote, because I was just trying to write it down quickly, and I didn't go back and reload it. But it was a really fascinating look at how Legion thinks.
Yeah, and then later when you're trying to figure out, like, why do the Geth care about what the heretics are doing? Legion says, we condemn these judgments. Because the Geth just want to live. They don't want to fight with organics. They just want to live their lives.
Yeah.
Yep, and we have Saren out here ruin it for everybody by tempting the Geth with the old machines.
Yeah,
or the old machines just outright reprogramming them, which I wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah, this conversation pretty much set the stage for some of the tragedies that I caused to happen in Mass Effect 3 because I fell in love with the Geth so much.
Yeah, it's a testament to the writing at BioWare, right? This enemy that is pretty much the predominant enemy you fought in the first game, and for a good chunk of the second game up until this point. I mean, I'd say at least half of the fights involved, or maybe a third of the fights involved Geth, and yet still, after conversation with Legion, they convince us that, as well they should, that they're not all bad, and that it was a section of bad Geth that are causing these problems, that you don't actually know the Geth. You've never actually met the Geth. In that initial conversation, they say, we've never met, because all of the Geth you fought were heretics up until this point, you know. And that's really fascinating, too, that they are able to twist everything we thought we knew and immediately make us sympathize, too. I mean, unless you're a cold, calculating, terrible renegade Shep, but otherwise...
Oh, even then, you still like Geth, or you still like Legion.
That's true.
Yeah. Once we agree to help Legion, we find out that the heretic base is in between stars. That's how Legion describes it. And it's in a place called the Sea of Storms. I would like to live there.
The Sea of Me's.
I think that would be a great name for your apartment.
I don't want to live there anymore.
The Sea of Storms. I mean, it's not wrong. I don't want to live there anymore.
Thank you for taking the thing that I thought was so beautiful and turning it into something so awful.
Yeah. It's what I live for. I do appreciate that when we go to the mission, it's literally the only thing there is the heretic base. There's nothing else in that galaxy.
It's between stars. It's not even in a galaxy.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
And when we're in the cockpit, Joker is giving Legion shit, and he's just like, you realize they can still see us, right? All they have to do is look out a window. And that's when Legion says, windows are structural weaknesses.
Well, and what's even better is, as he's explaining that, and Shepard comes around to the other side of his chair, Joker, in classic Joker form, starts mimicking, like, a robot, like, moving like a robot, until...
Yeah, he's doing the robot behind Legion's back. He's being rude as fuck is what he's being.
Mm-hmm. Right, but then Shepard, he catches Shepard's eye and immediately stops and, like, knows that he's in the shit for being an ass, because Shepard just gives him a look of death.
Who did y'all bring with you?
Tali and Legion.
Well, we had to bring Legion. I brought Moradin, actually.
Interesting. I brought Garrus.
All different. So my initial thought when I was picking a second squad mate was third, I guess, technically, I thought Tali, because obviously that should be more interesting because it's Tali and it's Geth. But then I thought, as interesting as that would be, the science mind of Moradin might be even more interesting, and so that's why I ended up choosing Moradin.
Yeah, I wanted to see if Tali had anything special to say, and I was actually kind of disappointed. There really wasn't much in the way of her interaction that was indicating, you know, the heaviness of being with a Geth on a Geth base and all of the import that should have been there. I think BioWare fell down a bit on that.
Oh, that's annoying. I wonder if Legion was like a last-minute ad.
Yeah, because I don't feel like Moradin did have a ton to say. Like, Moradin did his usual spinning out, trying to solve stuff, and Legion writes that ship, pun intended, I guess. But it's nothing super deep. It's mostly surface-level exposition. Was there anything interesting with Garrus?
So Garrus didn't really have any party banter or anything like that. No throwaway comments like he did when, say, we were going through the hospital in Tachanka. The only thing he really had to say was when we were talking about the difference between rewriting and destroying, he likened rewriting to indoctrination, which gave me something to chew on throughout the entire mission.
I came to that conclusion on my own.
Same, but...
Yeah, I have a lot of complicated feelings about it.
I think we all do. But okay, so we all pick different people to come with us. I think that's not necessarily a first, but it's definitely uncommon. Usually MJ and I accidentally end up picking overlapping squad mates. So
accidentally, like I don't always pick Garrus.
I mean, that's true. If I pick Garrus at all, you'll have Garrus as well.
Every mission is a date if you bring your love interest.
That's true. That's true. So the mission starts with us entering the base, and within early moments of the base, Legion lets us know that because of what he let out into the ether, essentially, that could corrupt, the Geth are offline for the most part trying to debug, and so we won't necessarily have to fight them in every room. And there are these interesting layouts where the circuitry on the ground, and if you cross it, it sets off alarms. But otherwise, if you stay within it or around it, you can blow up these hubs that they're connected to, almost killing them instantly, and then not having to actually have a ton of combat in some of these rooms, which was really interesting because that's super different from everything we've done up to this
And there was
point.
also some really great sound design for those green paths. They had this kind of creepy digital leaky sync sound that got louder as you got closer to it. That was just amazing to hear since I was playing this on headphones, and it was super spooky.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Maybe that's because I played on a TV, so I didn't really have the headphone experience. Did you guys lose me again? Hello?
Yep. Just didn't have anything to
yeah,
say.
we're here.
Also, it was just very nice of the Geth to leave med kits around for us.
Yeah, it was really kind of them. No safes, though. Geth don't use credits, I guess.
No, but every time we blew up a hub, we got 3,000 credits. Where from, I have no idea, but we did. Every time.
It's weird. Do they just have credits on them?
There's not even a shop on the station. What do they need credits for?
Internet porn.
What are they
It's gotta be
buying?
internet porn.
Before we progress too much, I have a couple of quotes that I want to talk about.
Sure.
Legion makes sure to say that they do not share an organic sense of pity, remorse, or fear, and also talked about how the Geth gain complexity by linking together. And there's this very vulnerable moment where Legion thinks about what it's like to be alone and how quiet it is. Because Geth are meant to be linked. They're meant to be part of each other, to share their memories, to share their experiences, to just be one and united.
Yeah, it's interesting to have it many times during this mission, and this is the start of it. Legion seems to have not necessarily a crisis of faith, but definitely a deep concern for what these heretics are going through, but at the same time, there's not really an emotional connection, right? Like every time we confront Legion about the choice we'll have to make, he's undecided. They're trying to reach consensus, but in that moment, you get a sense of there's something more to Legion than just computers, beeps and boops. Like it's more complicated than that, and I like how they use the storytelling to show that.
Yeah, Planescape Torment has kind of a similar thing with a group of cranium rats, which are these kind of psychic rats that have little brains sticking out of their skulls. And the more of them that kind of group together, the smarter they become. And eventually you find a hive mind of thousands of them huddled together. And I know BioWare didn't make Planescape, but they were part of that same Baldur's Gate 2 zeitgeist from right around then. So I think I'm guessing that was at least slightly an influence in terms of their thoughts about making a collective entity.
For sure.
Shepard gets super hung up on the concept of individuality. I kind of want to shake Shepard and just be like, just get over it. They're not individuals. And they're happy. Just let them. Just let them be happy.
Exactly. I mean, it's funny that that's a callback to the first conversation, right? That Shepard is like insistent on like, what do I call you? The thing in front of me right now. What do I call you?
I love that conversation because it's like any human now trying to figure out the proper order of words to try and get their Google Assistant to work for them.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's true. If the game had
What
come out
series
10
of
years
words
later,
do I have to say to get you to play my Spotify playlist?
if the game had come out 10 years later, would they have been named Alexa?
Perfect. Oh man, now I want a fanfic where Legion falls in love with a female presenting Geth hub named Alexa.
Why does it have to be female presenting?
Give me that, internet.
One other thing that was fun during this
just
conversation
be-
is that Mark Mear's Canadian accent came out really, really hard if you were playing male Shep. He definitely aboded.
He did, yes. He definitely did.
Okay, so Legion says it's not clear if Geth can be traumatized. And buddy, give us a minute. I'm sure we can figure it out.
Yeah, if there's anything humans are good at, it's traumatizing everybody else.
I'm sure I could figure it out. Just give me 5 minutes. Nothing really interesting happens in terms of the combat. You go into a room, you blow up a hub, you collect some weird credits, you go into the next room, you find some ammo, you find some health packs. You keep going.
Yeah, I will say the only interesting thing about the combat in this is in some of the rooms there are turrets that you can trigger Legion to hack to help you. And then in the final fight, which we'll get to in a little, we'll discuss the stuff that comes up to it. But honestly, the combat is all the same until the very final battle where you fight a series, or the second to final battle, when you fight a series of Geth, and it's almost like a tower defense because there are tons of turrets that you can activate. Like, it was fine. And, like, it was clever for them to try and put a different game type, right, within this game. Like, look at us, we made a mini tower defense game in our game. But it was ineffective at best.
It was a good mission for sniping.
Blew up. It's not a good mission for me. I did not enjoy the tower defense aspect.
Oh, and one other fun thing that came up during the combat is that all of Tali's combat barks are references to Baldur's Gate 2. They're either she says something like "Go for the oculars," and that's a reference to Jim Cummings' character Minsk, who says "Go for the eyes, boo," speaking to his giant space hamster. And I think she says something like "faster than Chektika, fast." She blurs the way she says it.
Nothing's faster than.
But it's a reference to another character who's worships a gnome goddess, Chektika Fastpaws. So it's just for people who have been following BioWare since the mid '90s. It was a cute little reference.
Yes.
Well, right, because I think that's the name of her
drone. Yeah.
Her what? Yeah.
Tachika. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Which is super
I
clever.
love.
Yeah. And then the final battle in the whole thing is just a giant Geth that will destroy you if you get too close, but you can take it out pretty easily if you just distance yourself.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Right before you leave. Oh, I know why you don't know what I'm talking about. It's because of the choice I made. We'll get back to that.
Oh, that's probably why. Okay. Yeah, you jumped ahead. So when we get to the final room, we now have to make this decision. And I hate that we have to make this decision because, first of all, we're not Geth. This is not our people. We should not have to make this decision. We should not be trusted to make this decision. And yet, Legion says that we have perspective that they lack.
Well, I think also Legion is just a big Shepard fan person. So, when you have a chance to have your hero tell you what to do, there's a better than average chance you'll want to take it.
Yeah. So ultimately, Legion says that they still haven't come to a consensus. 573 units or programs are in favor of rewriting, while 571 are in favor of destroying the base.
And I had the same numbers.
So let's start with Rob.
Yep. I said destruction, and I felt like rewriting them was absolutely monstrous when you think about basically taking someone's personality and changing it, without their control. And I realized Legion would say, "Oh, they're just programs. It's totally fine." But to me, that sort of I don't want to say trying to think of a phrase that isn't horrible, but that sort of way of taking someone's mind and corrupting it without their knowledge or control is far more loathsome than just blowing them up. Even though I got the renegade points for it, which seems backwards.
Matt, what did you do?
I did the same thing, and my logic was similar. As my Shepard, if I were Shepard, considering the bad decisions I've made, Here's the logic, and I think it's even more baser instincts than Rob's logic. I've been killing them for so long. Killing more seems easier than rewriting them. It also seems to make more sense. Like killing them here at the source and killing them for over a year chasing the Reaper, what's the difference? Whereas rewriting them, it's deciding what to do with a race, and it's all twisted, right? My logic doesn't make sense, and and I don't think that I'm necessarily even right, but in some way I felt like for my shepherd it was easier to justify continuing to kill them and take them out for good than to take away their free will or their mind, which I know probably doesn't even make that much sense.
No, it definitely does. And I think those are both like really, really good reasons why not to do rewriting and to do destroying instead. I struggle with this a lot because there's a lot tied up in it. Garrus made a comment likening it to indoctrination. I sat with it for a little bit wondering, would I rather be brainwashed or would I rather die? And I think I would rather die than be brainwashed. However, is it the same thing for Geth, who are completely different from me? Like, they're designed differently, they live differently, they think differently. Is it a humane act to unite their people? So I couldn't really make a decision. I didn't want to kill more Geth. I didn't want to change who they were down to their foundations. So instead, I looked at those numbers I was given, and I said, you know what? Your majority said rewrite. I'm going with your majority because it should not be my decision.
All right. I mean, that had crossed my mind, and that makes a ton of sense. I think so. I messaged MJ while I was playing this mission the other day and said, I hate this mission. And what I mean by that is I don't actually hate it. It's actually one of my all-time favorite missions in the game, although I'm sure I've said that about other missions at this point, but it is definitely up there. It is definitely one of the top 10 missions probably in all of Mass Effect, just because I hate it so much, because I hate that conflict. I hate having to make that decision. It's the one time for sure that I wish there was a middle option, a middle choice, or to defer to Legion. Like, that's all I really want, and I think we, at the end of the day, all really want, is to defer to Legion, which is why, smartly, the devs don't give you that free pass. They make you make a choice.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to do, and I appreciate the weight of it. I had a friend who said the first time he got up to that mission, he put the controller down and left the room. He was just like, nope, I'm out. I need to think about this. I'm done. And I appreciate the power of that here. And I think it's earned as well, especially considering it's in the second game after fighting them for an entire first game.
I had to seek out, like, second and third opinions.
Oh, did you ask John?
I did ask John. John was in favor of rewriting. I asked my friend Meg, and her gut said to kill, but then when I laid it all out for her, she said, no. This is giving me a panic attack. Why are you doing this?
And I feel like I have done the rewrite in my Paragon playthroughs, but this time I felt too. pretty icked out by just kind of the taking away of choice.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a Paragon action, and I felt like this was not my call to make, and that's what it came down to. Because these aren't my people. I don't know them the way Legion knows them.
I mean, that's fair, right? You're justifying it in any way that you can, because in dire circumstances like this, we have to do what we can to survive. And I appreciate that this mission and this choice doesn't leave any of us ultimately particularly happy with it, which again I think is the point, and I think it makes for interesting conversation and discussion. Because at the end of the day, they both kind of suck. They're both bad, and
there are no good choices.
Yeah.
No, but it's also perfectly natural, MJ, for you to want to find a release, right? Siding with the majority is like you're relieving yourself of responsibility a little bit. And in traumatic situations like this, we hunt for that, right? We want to look for something that allows us to deviate or release ourselves, or like allow us to survive, understand, grow, and move on in any way that we can. And the way your logic behind it definitely showcases that. And I think that's not a bad thing either, right? Especially if we're playing true to ourselves and how we'd make that decision.
So after we all make that decision, the base is going to be destroyed no matter what.
Yep.
For you guys, it was going to blow up. For me, a huge pulse was going to go through it to destroy all organics.
Yep.
So...
And
I guess you guys had
this
to fight
is where I fought a giant Geth right before I left the ship. But I guess you don't get that if you don't.
I get a swarm of Geth and a 3-minute timer. So I just said bye and ran.
Yeah, I got a ton of Geth, and the final one was like a Geth Prime, and I died to it the first time because I tried to charge it like an asshole. Because that's how I solve all my problems. But yeah, you can just run to the airlock and ignore everything and just leave.
Yeah,
which I think
I'm
is
leaving.
Great also.
I'm already there. Out.
The combat here is kind of clunky. You're in tight corridors. It is what it is. It's fighting more Geth. I will admit, this time in this playthrough, I think I'm tired of the combat a little bit. I mean, I've said many a time, I think 3 has the best version of this combat system, but I'm definitely starting to feel the repetitive nature of 2's combat a little bit by this point.
Yeah, I feel like Andromeda's even better. But
yes, it is.
But we'll get there in a couple seasons, I'm sure.
Exactly. It's on the list.
Eventually. Yeah, I just ran. Fuck this. And then we return to our ship. Do we get a break? No.
Nope. Joker informs us that Tali is about to go have words with Legion.
Yep. Tali has a gun pointed at Legion. Apparently, Legion scanned her Omni tool, and Legion found out that the Quarians are planning some kind of assault on the Geth, and Legion's like, I have to let my people know. I can't let them just, like, die. And Tali's upset, and they're both right.
Yeah, and I feel like she's got a really valid point there.
Yeah, she does. They both do.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge either of them trying to protect their people. Were you right to scan her Omni tool? No. Was your father right to conduct, war experiments? Also no.
Well, yeah, and when you pick the Paragon option, Shepard pretty much says that. He throws their mistakes in each other's face and pretty much goes, look, this is not the way. We have to be better than both of those who came before us.
The Renegade option was so much more fun.
Oh, what is the Renegade option?
You basically scold them like they're little children. You say, this is exactly what the Reapers want, and then you say, and this part's a quote, you can either fight on my side or be crushed under my heel. Yeah, it is just ridiculously over the top. To say it to Tali, in addition to Legion, and Shepard is definitely saying it to both of them. It's out of character, but at the same time, it was really, really satisfying to just end the conversation that way.
I was struck by how much respect Legion has for Tali. Mm-hmm. They try to explain to her that they're just as devoted to their people as she is to hers, and Legion uses a comparison of something that she was ready to die for her people, and Legion's like, I'm just trying to do what you taught me, essentially.
Yeah. And it does bring Tali back. Tali realizes that Legion is just trying to do the right thing by their people, and so Tali offers less critical, less confidential information that the Geth can have to just kind of be better prepared or to better understand what's going on.
I love that moment because it was such a strong friendship.
Yeah.
There was a rainbow over both of them with the word friendship, and it made me very happy inside.
And nothing will ever go wrong between the two of them after this.
Nothing ever. Okay, they're perfect. They're perfect and beautiful, and they're friends now.
And and that's where the mission ends, or at least that's where we all stopped, was after this conversation.
Yes,
and
that is where we stopped.
That leaves us with Redacted, which I am not excited to deal with in the next episode. But it won't actually be in the next episode, but more on that in a little bit.
It'll be okay, I promise. Probably.
For now, though, MJ, did you bring us something for Fandom Corner?
Yes, I did find something. If you will view the Etsy link that I have dropped here in our Google Doc, you will find Justine Dillenbeck, an artist who does wood burning of illustrations and photographs. And if you search Justine's stock for Mass Effect, you will find a nice selection of illustrations burned onto pine. Some of Legion. There's one of Saren, which gives him very soulful eyes, and I don't know how I feel about that. There's gorgeous one of Rex. There's a really complicated one of Tali.
I like that the Rex one is right next to a Velociraptor, and they have more in common than I would have initially thought. She also has a second one of Rex and one of not Grunt as well, our lovely lizard son.
Mm-hmm. Her prices range from like $25 to $95 to one piece was $650. So there are some affordable pieces in there, as well as some like really complicated, more expensive pieces. So depending on what it is that you need, she might also do custom work. I think she does custom pet portraits.
Nice.
Yeah.
She has a Tali one too. Excellent.
Yeah. The Tali one is $50. It's really pretty though. Like
so we'll have that link in the show notes. Definitely go check it out. They are worth it if you want to decorate your home in like a kind of woodsy, homey kind of look. They're really great. They probably make great gifts for the nerd in your life as well.
That's why I do this, so that way my husband has a bevy of gift options.
Exactly. That's
for me.
The sole purpose of Fandom Corner is so you can get presents.
Or if any of our intrepid listeners wants to buy me a present, I won't say no.
That's true. We don't have a P.O. box, though, so they don't have anywhere to send it.
Not yet.
Probably need one of those eventually, I guess.
They could just Venmo me some money.
Exactly.
Here's $50 for that wood burning that you want.
But yeah, go check that out. Justine does some great work. It really is gorgeous.
Yes. And some bonus fic recommendations. I don't know if I've talked about this in the past, but Rob sent me a while ago a fic about Legion adopting a kitten, and it was amazing. And I will share that on our Discord because it's really cute, and everybody needs Legion, like, adopting a kitten and not knowing what to do with it.
It's so fluffy.
That does sound delightful.
It was really cute. Next up, we have an email from Jasmine. Matt, do you want to do the email, or do you want me to do the email?
You can do it.
Okay.
I believe in you.
Someone has to, because it sure as shit ain't me. Hey, Matt and MJ, I still faithfully listen to your podcast every morning in traffic. I just finished Season 1, and I am playing Mass Effect 2, doing Project Overlord. Listening to your opinions about the Liara romance makes me see it in a new light, but I still don't feel as if it was immaturity on her part. I feel like it's more of her being sheltered and inexperienced than anything. She voluntarily sheltered herself from society and her mother's influence. In turn, basically shut off from any kind of chance for romance or love interests. Do I know she's young? Yes. Do I see as predatory? No. Her personality may make it seem so, but she is extremely sheltered, to the point it can't help but make you feel as if you're taking advantage of her. I used to be the same way. I just hate people. It's how I am. Yet, I am in the public service field, and that I have to interact with the public on a daily basis. Though I didn't have much of a love life until I met my fiancé at the airport. I have mentioned before that she is my Liara. She's a bookworm, science-loving nerd. I'm just the serious, grumpy, short Spanish girl who has a patented death stare at humanity. Liara has the most sophisticated, involved, and devoted romance I have ever seen in a video game, and I will forever be grateful to BioWare for taking me on that ride with them. Signed, Grumpy Boss Jasmine.
Jasmine, for one, thank you for the email. As we always say, we do appreciate it, and we do. And secondly, I totally get this, and I I think the reason I felt the way I felt is more as playing as a man and Liara is presented as a woman, even though they are technically genderless. But I get it, and I think that we have to do what we think is right and how we feel in the moment. And that said, when I played FemShep, which is my preference because I love Jennifer Hale, even though, as I always say, we love you too, Mark Muir. I just have a preference to Jennifer Hale. It did feel less so. And so I think it's just based on my perspective and what I see and in the world around me. But that said, there's nothing to say that relationship can't still grow and be good, because I do remember being quite fond of that relationship and how it grows through the 3 games when I did pursue it in my first couple of playthroughs.
Honestly, I think Mass Effect 2 Liara is a completely different person from Mass Effect 1 Liara. Like, Jasmine, you're right, she is very sheltered, and that does play into this kind of sense of taking advantage of her, especially coming from my perspective as a femme queer. There is a lot of, like, older queers taking advantage of younger queers in the community, and knowing that, it made me feel really uncomfortable. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a responsible adult and say, let's be friends. But it didn't work that way for me because BioWare is a dick sometimes. I was going to say that.
That's true.
We kissed and I didn't want to kiss.
No kiss. No kiss. Anyway, thank you for your email, Jasmine. We love hearing from our listeners, and I'm so glad that we get you through your commute. That is one of our many talents as a podcast. Because podcasts can be talented, right?
Sure. I forgot to include in our outro a thing that we need to tell our listeners about.
Sure, okay. Should I stall for time so you can tell them about it?
I mean, why do you have to stall for time? We're going to talk about it right now, Matt.
Okay, let's talk about it right now. What do you have to tell our listeners?
So if you follow us on Twitter, if you are... Well, actually, not if you follow us on Twitter. If you're in our Discord, you probably know that I slaved away and I made an N7-inspired cowl.
Mm-hmm.
It's black, red, and white. It has that N7 stripe. It is gorgeous, if I do say so myself. It took a lot of time. And I would like to give it to one of our amazing listeners. So we're going to be hosting a giveaway on our Twitter and possibly our Instagram. We'll figure that out. Just keep an eye on our social media. And you'll see all the details of the giveaway. You'll see pictures of this beautiful cowl. We're also going to give away stickers and buttons. Stickers and buttons to go with it. I think we're going to keep it within the states, though, to keep shipping costs down.
Yep. If you are international, we might be able to figure something out, but it definitely would be easier to ship within the United States for sure.
And
okay, so we'll figure it out.
And as someone who has one of MJ's cowls, they're gorgeous. They're just...
Oh, that's right. I made you one.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah, it's an amethyst one.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. Like, I slaved over this, like, to the point where I almost put it down and just never went back to it because it was so hard to do. But I fucking did it. So, yeah.
So keep an eye on Twitter. We'll probably mention it in other places as well, but I think Twitter is going to be the place to win it. So keep an eye out on that, and within the next week or so of hearing this, if not sooner, that should be on our social media. If I may do the next part of our outro, because I'm very excited about it.
Yes.
Our next episode is actually not going to be what we originally thought our next episode would be, because I want to share with you, for those who don't remember or didn't know, I was on a PAX East panel thanks to our former guest, Liana Rupert. I keep wanting to call her Liara, and that's not right. Her name is Liana. It was called All is Fair in Love and BioWare, and I was able to record it straight from the board, so we have that live panel as a bonus episode for you. We're going to fit it in the schedule, and then so you'll get to hear this panel that we did live where we discussed our favorite love interests, why they're important, and then much to the dismay of our live audience, ranked them live, and there was a lot of complaining, but in the end it was a lot of fun. So we have that to share with you. The panel itself is not just Mass Effect. It was mostly just Mass Effect and Dragon Age, because if we brought in Jade Empire and Star Wars, it would be a lot. That would have been a lot. So we did that. It was with me, Liana Rupert, the other Mass Effect podcast, although they're up to Dragon Age now, Kenneth Shepard, one of their hosts, and then Jesse Vitelli, who I had not met prior to this panel and is now one of my besties because he's awesome. So definitely, and of course, Morgan Shaver, who ran the panel, kept us guided to the best of their ability, though we were a little raucous. So that'll be our next episode. And then in 2 weeks, we are going to have Michael Berger of the now on hiatus Games Gone podcast, who is an avid listener of the show and a big Mass Effect fan, to talk about the Suicide Mission. We're closing in on the end, sort of, so gear up because it's going to be crazy go nuts.
Rob, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you on the internet?
I'd say the best places to find me are my 2 Instagram accounts, at Rob Starobin and at robstarobin.nsfw, for content that I'm actually producing. If you want to see all of the politics stuff that I'm retweeting, it would just be my Twitter account at Rob Starobin. And if you want to hire me, robstarobin.com. And also, I should say my day job, bridgerecords.com, if you're interested in a mixture of modern and classical music.
Amazing. Awesome. Rob, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
My pleasure.
We appreciate you as a listener and as a meme lord, so we're happy to have you here.
My pleasure.
Thank you for being our friend.
Aw.
Yeah.
More Golden Girls.
I mean, it's more that I know that it's hard to be friends with us sometimes. So everybody deserves to be thanked for that. If you like what you heard here, follow us on social media. We are at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram, facebook.com/reignitepod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher if you can. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain Point of View Network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. We have some new shows debuting really soon. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server on the website and join in the conversation and see all of Rob's memes.
Rob and Ian are like our morale officers.
Oh, all right.
Pretty much, yeah.
Just don't ask me to feed your fish.
Fair enough.
I don't have fish, I have tomato plants, and they are coming along very nicely, thank you. We do some other stuff. I do a podcast called Circle of Friendship, where we talk about the Circle of Magic books by Tamara Pierce. We discuss friendship, magic, and Briar Moss. That is at COFPod on Twitter. I also do a podcast called The Rob Thomas, no, not that one, Robcast, where we talk about the works of Rob Thomas. No, not that one. Rob is actually going to show up on it at some point in time, I think in season 2.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited.
Hooray!
I'm a relatively recent fan of Veronica Mars, but I've been enjoying the hell out of iZombie for quite some time now. So I'm just a little bit ahead of MJ's co-host in terms of being a Rob Thomas fan, time-wise, not ranking-wise.
Right, of course. You hear that, Alex? Calling you out. He doesn't listen to this.
No, he does listen to this.
Does he? But he
doesn't
Mass
play the
Effect?
game. No, he hasn't. He just listens to us because he thinks that we're fun.
Well, that's very sweet. Thank you, Alex. I think you're fun. I do a bunch of shit. I'm back into streaming at twitch.tv/DJ_Stormageddon. As of when you're hearing this Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time, I will be diving back into Stardew Valley with my good friend Katie Beast. We will be playing Stardew Valley and farming poorly, probably, knowing myself. I also have a bunch of podcasts on Certain POV, Fun and Games with Jeff and me, which is a general gaming podcast, as well as Screen Snark, which I do with Rachel Quirky Shank, which is a TV and movie appreciation podcast where we talk about the most recent thing we've watched with a guest of our choosing. And then, of course, I have a show outside the network called Crash Course Autographs, and that is a bi-weekly interview series. As of when this comes out, my most recent episode will have been with the incredible Kate Nix, who is an independent musician and internet ghost who I love. So you should check that out. And I think that's it for me, at least as of now. I have other stuff going on, but more about that as we progress.
Thank you to Christina Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble featuring our favorite marshmallow, Kate and Alenko. You can find more of their work at KSOsArt on Instagram. We'd also like to thank Case Aiken for developing more amazing shirt designs you can find through certainpov.com or Teespring, and David Boyle for designing our logo, which you can also get on a shirt through Redbubble. Finally, thank you to Dan Bull for letting us use the Mass Effect rap for our theme music. I'm MJ.
And I am Matt A.K. Stormageddon.
And I'm Rob Starobin. We should go.
You're listening to Reignite. I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
Hi, I'm Drew.
I'm Nate.
And I'm Tanner, and we are the hosts of Headline Heroes.
Every week we take a bizarre, out-there article,
Germans build underground pipeline for beer,
and attempt to create a superhero or villain.
The obvious one is that they have a giant robot that runs off of beer.
Along the way, we discuss powers, design a costume, and of course, struggle with a name.
Graham Sam? No.
Sam, no!
And inevitably, we get off subject and talk about the really important stuff.
I did go to Bill Engvall's website, and I just want to tell you a couple of things I'm seeing here.
Please do, I wish you would. But we always arrive with the super creation we are proud of. Join Headline Heroes every Tuesday as we try to make reality a little more super.